is carefully invested in investments that are reasoned to be the most safe long-term investments for the financial future of CI. Understand that the maintenance costs of a patient in cryosuspension is not actually tremendously high. Need a little bit of monitoring and liquid nitrogen topping up once in a while when it boils off. I don't have the figures to hand of how much it costs, but it's not like you know, you're running a lot of very you know, intensive energy consuming equipment. Most of it, you know, a cryonic suspension dewar is a glorified thermos flask that has the patient inside, liquid nitrogen surrounding the patient. There are vents for the boil-off, and when it reaches down to a certain level, it's topped up. It's not very expensive. Does that answer your question? To the extent that it can in a nutshell.
Okay, so it's a trust investment of some sort which is administered.
That's right, yeah. More? Yes?
I have two questions. One is, can you say how many people your organisation has suspended to date?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, because the organisation's 20-something years old, and I've been involved for, I guess, about 18 months.
Okay. Well, how about in your tenure, in the past 18 months?
One.
Okay. My other question is, and this may be really stupid, but let's say I've got a terminal disease which presumably can be cured at some point in the future. So I go through the suspension. I die, I'm reanimated, perfused, whatever. And then, you know, I'm brought back in 50 years. I haven't got immortality. Somebody can still shoot me. Somebody can still knock me down with a bus. That's what I don't get. I'm sorry.
Absolutely right. Now, there are two ways of addressing that. One is the possibility that there will be future technologies that will be able to help us to better deal with those threats to our life. You know, a few hundred years ago, humanity was brought to the brink of extinction. I actually exaggerate a bit. It was, you know, like a third of the population of Europe. But, you know, it was an existential threat to humanity, in my opinion. A third of the population of Europe.
The Black Death.
Black Death. That today is relatively inconsequential in the civilized world. There are vaccines against it, and if somebody has a case, it can be cured. There are isolated pockets of it occasionally in developing countries. You know, there are a lot of things that are threats once upon a time that are not threats now. Worrying about how we will avoid being run over by a bus a long time in the future is much like a person in the Stone Age, or, you know, in fact a proto-human, wondering how people of our day are going to deal with saber-toothed tigers, bearing in mind that he's also assuming we'll only have chipped flint spearheads to defend ourselves with. So there will be other problems, but there will be other solutions. Even if that is not the case, saying, okay, you'll be brought back from suspension, but you'll still be mortal, you can still be shot, hit by a bus, etc. Let us say that that is a perfectly reasonable statement, as it might well be. We simply don't know at this stage. If you have a cardiac arrest now, I imagine you'd like somebody to perform CPR, right?
Sure.
Okay. But what's the point? Because you can still be shot or run over by a bus or something later.
It's not quite the same. I mean, it's not quite the same. You know, somebody in this room could perform CPR. It's not, you know, we're not talking about vitrifying my body, which is, I mean, it's a big, huge leap of faith.
It is not a leap of faith. Now, personally, I have absolutely no faith. I think it will work or it won't. It's kind of an intelligent version of Pascal's wager. If cryonics works, fantastic. I've managed to continue my life when otherwise I would have died. If it doesn't work, I'll be absolutely no more dead than if I hadn't tried, and damn it, I tried. Much like it is quite possible that I might have a cardiac arrest and require CPR, but CPR fails and you're not able to resuscitate me. But I'd still rather you try, all things told. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yes?
I don't know your personal situation in terms of family life and so on, but in the future perhaps if it's not...
Married, 0.3 children, 2 cats and a snake.
Right, okay. Do you think it might be an issue for other people, if not yourself, that if they've got dependents and they may have qualms about, you know, signing off their life insurance for a company rather than, you know, being able to support their family if they go before that?
Yep, some people do feel that way. I personally found a very simple solution, which is to have more than one life insurance policy. Now, I'm young and healthy, so granted it's easy for me than it might be for some people. But my £100,000 life insurance policy cost me £6 a month. It's very easy to have another one for Ellen, to look after her and our as yet unborn child. Let's say that I were 85, uninsurable due to medical conditions, but had some assets that, you know, would reasonably go to my next of kin. Then I personally would look after myself first and leave the remainder to my next of kin. Some people call that selfish, but I will not allow myself to die just so that the next of kin can have more money. Some people may consider me selfish for that, some people may disagree. That's absolutely fine, that's their decision to make. If they have limited resources, they can't get life insurance and they have so much money, whether or not they spend it on chronic suspension or on leaving it to the next of kin, that's to themselves, their own means and their own conscience to decide. Yes?
Can I just add something to the question of the lady? I think because cryonics is not about making you invincible. It's about giving you a chance to live. It's like, what's the point of getting pregnant and giving birth to a baby if it in future can be hit by the bus?
Well, I think that's probably something that people whose children have been hit by a bus would ask, you know, to be honest. But no, again, you know, it just seems to me that, you know, especially if you're talking 20 to 50 years for reanimation. If you're talking 1,500 years in the future, then God knows anything's possible. But 50 years, I expect to be around, you know, and so, nor without the help of chronics. So, you know, it just seems to me that there are so many other things that could happen, you know, diseases not yet known to us.
Absolutely.
But it just seems, you know, it's fascinating to me that people would do that just to go through it all over again, just to contract something else, or, you know.
Well, yes, I'd certainly take a potentially life-saving medical treatment, however risky, and take my chances with what life may throw at me afterwards, than simply die and not try to save my own life. I'd certainly make that decision. But that's, again, I do have a policy that if somebody does not wish to, you know, preserve their life, or attempt to, you know, I could more fairly say attempt to preserve their life in such a fashion, then, you know, that's for their own decision to make. There are plenty of people who wouldn't want to live forever, even if it were handed to them on a plate.
Right.
Was that a question?
Yeah. Right, just quick, about timescale. How long from when the person dies to when they go through the ice bath to the liquid nitrogen and dry ice, and then they're shipped to America? So what sort of timescale are we talking about?
We do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, right.
But in an ideal situation, if there's no paperwork problems, then it will be a few hours between it'll be straight away from deanimation to the ice bath. Then they'll be in the ice bath usually for a few hours. How many hours depends on the health of the patient. You may think, well, they're not very healthy, they're dead. But, for example, I might only be in it about 2 hours because I'm young and healthy, have an excellent cardiovascular system. It'll be very easy to perfuse my body. If I were 90 and 20 stone and what have you, it might be more problematic and it will take longer.
And you're doing the CPR on the all the time, yes?
CPS, yes.
Yes, it's been done.
Yes, this whole time. Up until the point of perfusion, we're doing the CPR while we're getting to the perfusion kit. CPS, sorry, I'm saying it, on the way to the perfusion kit. Once we're using the perfusion kit, then the pump is pumping the blood or replacing fluids around the body, and therefore there's no need to continue with an external device. Well, the pump is an external device, but not the same pump on the chest. Once the patient is